a banker if they're working in a bank as a software tester, but they should have, again, some amount of innate curiosity about the business that they're in, such that they educate themselves about the business that they're in, and that they are able to converse intelligently with business people. You know, that they understand what the business problem is that's to be solved. So, you know, that's I would encourage you as a manager to look at that too. That this is an area that's traditionally weak in shops that are building software for sale or systems for sale. They don't necessarily understand what their users are going to do with it. They have too much of a technical outlook and not enough of an application domain outlook. So those two things very much need to be in balance, and in many organizations they are not. They're too heavy on one side or the other. So this is a classic team organizational mistake that we see with clients around the world, and I'd encourage you to really take a look at this. And again, I'm going to show you in a minute how you would do that. But make sure that these things are in balance. And then last, of course, we would expect the tester to have skills specific to testing. So they should be able to write and follow test scripts. They should be able to do exploratory testing using techniques like error guessing or Whitaker's attacks techniques, those sort of things. If there's automation involved in your team, then you know that affects the testing skills required. Now, if you're using proper keyword-driven architectures, you don't have to have everybody able to write automated test scripts, but you need to have people understanding how they work and able to use them. Okay, so how do we do this? We can identify a lot of skills, but so how are we going to go about doing this properly? Well, okay, so first understand, again, that we have these three areas of skill, application domain, testing, and technology. So what we're going to do is we're going to create something that's called a skills assessment worksheet or a skills inventory. It goes by different names. It's a human resource management technique. I can't claim to have created this, but you're going to do a task analysis. That's the starting point for this. Now, task analysis is a fancy way of saying that you're going to go through and you're going to look at what your testers actually do. So let's say you got a work breakdown structure for a previous project. You've done a Microsoft project or some similar kind of tool. You had a work breakdown structure. You got a test plan, and you know, maybe some other information from past projects. You're going to sit down. You're going to analyze this historical information about what your testers actually do. And see, right here, this is an important point. This needs to be reality-based. All too often, what we see are these job descriptions that look as if they were created by somebody who sat in a room and had a sort of blue sky conversation with themselves about what would the perfect tester be like. If the perfect tester wandered into my office right now, how would I recognize her or him? That's just not connected to reality. Okay, what you got to do is look at what do your team actually do. Okay, so you do this task analysis, and then so having gone through these tasks, as you go through them, for each task you say, what skills would the tester need to have in order to be able to competently carry out this task? And that's going to spin out this list of the critical skills that you need in your team, that you actually need, right? This is not hypothetical. It's not like, oh, I'd really like somebody who could discuss, you know, ancient English literature with me, because you know we don't have enough conversation about Chaucer in our organization. You know, I mean that's not connected to something that somebody actually needs to do, right? And so the skills inventory that you're going to create through this task analysis is going to talk about what people actually do. All right, now here's a hypothetical. This spreadsheet, by the way, is out on the RBCS on the resources tab. It's either in the basic or the advanced library. If you look at test team process, you'll find it out there on one of those two locations. You can download it. Now, let me explain to you how this thing works. Looks like it's probably time for magic highlighter here too, because I think that's going to help you guys follow this, because this is pretty dense information-wise. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to point out here, well, we've got down column A here, this column here. This is where the skills are going to go. Now we're going to start with general qualifications, but we're going to have a page each. Here you see this is specific testing skills, and then we have domain knowledge, and then we have technical expertise. So I use the three groups here to show the different skills areas. Now, let me go back to this first page here. And I'm sorry there's going to be some jumping around, and I'll try not to lose you guys. I'm going to keep track of whether your screens have refreshed, so be able to see if you're caught up. Okay, so what we're going to do is for each skill, having identified it, we're going to talk about the level of skill that would be required based on position. Okay, so I've defined in this organization, we've got the test technician, that's the TT. So this is the man or woman whose job it is to pretty much just execute tests, follow written scripts, kick off automated tests, file bug reports, and so forth. This is sort of the entry level. This goes by different names in different organizations. You get test specialist and junior test engineer and so forth. Call it whatever you want. This is the individual contributor level, entry level. And then we've got the automation test engineer, and we've got the manual test engineer, and then those are the guys who are responsible for creating either the automated test systems, doing the actual automation. The manual testers are the ones who are responsible for creating the tests that would be run manually. And also, of course, if you've got keyword-driven automation, then they would be creating tests that would use that. Use the automated framework, but would not necessarily have that ability to build the framework. Okay, so based on position, what we're going to do is we're going to say what level of skill is required. Now, I'm using a simple 4-point scale that you see across the top here. Okay. Now, what we've got is 0, which means person knows nothing about the topic, and if we're talking about hypotheticals, we're talking about needs to know nothing about it. 1 is some knowledge. Now, a person with a none or with a 1 would be able to execute tasks that require the skill, but they would need to have someone around that they could ask questions of. They have some basic knowledge of the skill under consideration. And then we have the 2, which is the knowledgeable, and so that's somebody who is competent in doing tasks that require that skill, usually without any supervision or assistance. Though every now and then they get stuck and might need to ask questions. And then 3 is the expert. This is the person who would be asked basically if there were questions. So that person will be completely able to do things on their own. Now, also, I want to point out here we got a required versus desirable, and this is really important. Distinguish between required and desirable, because we see a lot of job descriptions, a lot of hiring process that does not make this distinction, and the bar is set so ridiculously high by the inclusion of desirable things under the category of required that competent, qualified people who could actually do the work don't apply for the job because they say, well, I don't have that, and at the same time, other people